Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Francis Entertainment Center. Next stories today are Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 4 and Doing Time. Enjoy the video. Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy are entering the Krusty Krab for lunch, but Squidward and Barnacle Boy have an argument while calling each other Big Nose each. Squidward, unimpressed with the duo's heroic career, casually mocks them, causing SpongeBob to realize they are in the restaurant and go into an excited frenzy, eagerly requesting their autograph. The heroes run away from him, accidentally leaving Mermaid Man's belt inside. SpongeBob finds it and tries to give it back, but they drive away in the invisible boatmobile before he can do so. SpongeBob decides to wear the belt and play with it. Thinking he could hold on to it until after work, he discovers the small rancers shrinking the items in the kitchen. At the register, Squidward is suddenly startled by the commotion in the kitchen, which causes him to mess up a customer's order by accident, resulting in a punch in the face. This prompts Squidward to enter the kitchen and asks SpongeBob where the ruckus is coming from, only to see almost everything shrunken. Squidward at that moment discovers that SpongeBob has acquired Mermaid Man's belt, assuming that SpongeBob has stolen the belt. Squidward plans to do the right thing and call Mermaid Man in order to inform him of the situation. Worried that his reputation with the heroes will deteriorate, SpongeBob panics and shrinks Squidward with the belt after SpongeBob fearfully tells Squidward that if Mermaid Man finds out, he will be kicked out of his fan club for good. Squidward demands SpongeBob to return him to his normal size, but he has no idea how. Due to the belt's complicated and excessive features, he instead accidentally puts Squidward through increasingly and ridiculous, excruciating ornaments. Squidward suggests getting Mermaid Man's help, but SpongeBob still refuses, saying someone else must be able to help him, and not wanting Mermaid Man to find out. SpongeBob goes to Patrick for help, to no avail. Patrick mistakes Squidward for an action figure and starts playing with him, even after being told that he is the real Squidward. Patrick then suggests turning the M upside down, setting the belt to W for Wumbo, a meaningless term seemingly coined by Patrick. SpongeBob questions the existence of this word, but Patrick responds by conjugating Wumbo and combining with a handful of other suffixes. SpongeBob is finally convinced by this idea and decides to test it out. Then he accidentally shrinks Patrick. Squidward orders SpongeBob to take him and Patrick to Mermaid Man for help, but SpongeBob still refuses as he does not want Mermaid Man to find out and places him and Patrick in a jar. Seconds later, citizens start coming to and greeting SpongeBob, prompting him to shrink them so that they cannot tell Mermaid Man that he has gained possession of the belt. Eventually, SpongeBob has shrunken everyone in Bikini Bottom and crams them all into the jar. When his mother tells him he needs to own up to his mistakes, he then realizes he shrunk Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy as well, and he tearfully apologizes to them. Mermaid Man accepts his apology and charges their senility to remember a story about the first time he used the belt, until everyone interrupts him and demands that he tell SpongeBob how to return them to normal size. After thinking for a moment, Mermaid Man asks SpongeBob if he set the belt to Wumbo, like Patrick said, which makes everyone furious that Mermaid Man does not remember how to restore them to normal size either. The citizens then burst out of the jar, form an angry mob, and after coming together from their words, get SpongeBob. They venture to SpongeBob's body to attack his bones and other internal organs as revenge for shrinking them. This goes on for a while until everyone says aloud that SpongeBob is too big to be destructible, which gives him the idea to shrink Bikini Bottom before shrinking himself. The citizens are pleased with this as they see no discernible difference from their previous lives to living in a miniature Bikini Bottom. As the citizens celebrate, a bus pulls up and Plankton steps out, returning to Bikini Bottom from a vacation. He is surprised that the city is now smaller than him. SpongeBob is taking his driving test yet again. He ends up leaving the driving course and wrecking the boating school in the city before driving off an unfinished bridge and falling into an abyss. The police follow the boat and end up driving off the bridge into the abyss themselves. SpongeBob, Mrs. Puff, and the police all land on top of a truck full of fruit punch being delivered to Shady Shoals Rest Home, causing it to fall over and spill, flooding the rest home. Although SpongeBob is responsible, the incident occurred under Mrs. Puff's supervision. She is sent to prison for gross negligence. In prison, she realizes that she will not see SpongeBob again for a very long time and starts to enjoy it. Meanwhile, SpongeBob is depressed that Mrs. Puff is in jail. Patrick tells him that it is SpongeBob's fault. The duo sets out to free her from jail. First, they try to rob the bank in order to get arrested themselves, but SpongeBob gets wrapped up in the bureaucratic niceties of banking and forgets they are trying to commit a crime. Next, they disguise themselves as rocks that prisoners smash as labor. Try to communicate with Mrs. Puff, who calls the guards, but they dismiss her conversation with two rocks as hallucination. Move her to kitchen duty. SpongeBob and Patrick are then smashed by another inmate, costing them their deposit on the costumes. Then they hide in a vat of chili in the cafeteria and offer to help Mrs. Puff escape through it, but she explains to them that she likes it in prison, which SpongeBob refuses to believe. He worries that Mrs. Puff is completely institutionalized in prison and he needs to get her out. In an attempt to coax her, SpongeBob tells Mrs. Puff if she can escape, he will stay after school and decorate the entire classroom. But Mrs. Puff refuses. She calls for the prison guards again and is reassigned again after the prison guards believe that Mrs. Puff is going crazy. SpongeBob and Patrick appear to her yet again on a coat hanger assembly line. When she calls for a guard, he somehow perceives SpongeBob and Patrick as raw materials used to make the coat hangers and dismisses her to her cell once again. SpongeBob and Patrick then appear in Mrs. Puff's cell toilet, asking her to hop in, and when Mrs. Puff calls for a guard again, he simply flushes him down the toilet and leaves. They then appear in her bed. Mrs. Puff calls for the guards yet again, but this time has the two guards that appear are SpongeBob and Patrick in disguise. After they leave, the real guards show up after hearing her screaming and crying. Mrs. Puff thinks it's still SpongeBob and Patrick in disguise and rips off their faces. This is the last straw for the guards, who strap Mrs. Puff into a straitjacket and throw her in a padded cell for solitary confinement. Convinced she's completely lost her sanity. Despite this, she's glad to finally be alone and away from SpongeBob. But suddenly his face appears all over the walls and floor of padded cell and begins laughing at her. Mrs. Puff screams in horror at the incessant laughing at the scene. Back to SpongeBob driving off the cliff and crashing into the fruit punch truck, once again flooding the rest home. Mrs. Puff stumbles out of the wreckage and is confronted by the police again, but to her surprise this time, they arrest SpongeBob instead of her. From this, she concludes that her prison sentence is merely a hallucination and is happy she's not going to jail. After a police officer informs her that she already did her time, Mrs. Puff suddenly sees herself wearing a prison uniform with a chain on her ankle. She once again screams in horror. Back to her sitting in the boat, after going off the cliff again, seemingly having suffered another hallucination. This time, she sees Donna, a prisoner with a masculine voice from her first hallucination, driving the boat instead of SpongeBob, screaming it again. Back to Mrs. Puff sitting in the boat, driving off the cliff, this time with SpongeBob behind the wheel, and no police cars behind them. Exasperated, Mrs. Puff says, "Oh, forget it."